All right, everybody, welcome to Answer the Call. This episode is with TheNoobifier. You guys know him very well if you are watching this on YouTube, I'm sure. But for those of you that don't know what Answer the Call is, it is a short form podcast that is with only one guest or one caller at a time with one topic only. I think most of the Star Citizen podcasts are really long form, really long-winded, and very different from this. So I thought that this would be a really cool idea, something really fun to do. And so far, I've never had so many positive comments on anything I've ever done in anything as far as Star Citizen content creation goes. So I'm really happy with the feedback so far, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. So the topic today is, can Star Citizen be balanced? Now, that doesn't just mean combat balance, economy balance. I'm talking about overall, given the scope of the game and how it's been developed, how it's been funded, all the factors of Star Citizen, can it be balanced? And me and Noob discussed this a little bit off camera just to see if it would be a good discussion, and I would have changed the topic if we agreed completely on things, and we don't completely agree. So it should be pretty good. But before we get started, for those of you who may not know you, Noob, even though you do have lots of followers on Twitch, even though you've never streamed on Twitch, for those of you that don't know you, since we are live streaming on Twitch as well, who are you? What do you do? Tell people about you.
All right. So hello, everyone. Those of you that don't know me, I'm TheNoobifier. I am a redacted Star Citizen content creator. I am trying to branch out a little bit, but it's a bumpy road. We're going to try to do some hardware and stuff like that in the future. So if you see those, support them. If you don't like it, let me know. I'll change it. I basically try to take Star Citizen and make it acceptable or easy to understand for people in as short as possible. I don't normally go for the big ticket items as far as the content. I also like to pick a weird thing. Like last week, I did something about the coordinate system and how complicated it would be to define a coordinate system in space. So if you are interested about that, please go have a look at that or look for that video. It has a big globe on it. It's very difficult to miss. But that's the kind of thing. I take things that interest me, and it sounds very personal, but I take things that are interesting to me and I make videos about them, because ultimately you want to make something that you're happy with or that you want to do, right? So
Exactly.
that's why I do that. So if you like that, if you want to be along for that ride, please subscribe.
Nice. Yeah, so I usually start the podcast off with my feelings on it. So do I think Star Citizen can be balanced? I want to start with the first things first, I guess the elephant in the room, and the reason why I have my opinion is the ship purchasing and how long we've been able to buy ships to fund the game and concept ships, and things like that. The fact that it's been going on for so long and people have been buying ships for, 5 years now, I think? 6? 2012 to 2018?
Yeah, and it's 12 a year right now.
Yeah, so they're doing one every month. And what the trend that we're also seeing is there's similar style or types of ships that are coming out from ships that they put out in the past, that when the new one comes out, it does tend to seem better and be better than the one that they made before, okay? But I think we should define balance. Balance, for me, is a number of factors. I think we should define balance in combat, and I think we might have a different opinion of what balance is as well, potentially. Balance for me is creating an atmosphere where where one person or one type of ship isn't used all the time because it's massively overpowered. Not one build on one ship. Yeah. There'll be a good meta where when you come to a fight where you do a mission, that there's multiple options to do them as far as combat goes, right? So there's no one, like, if you want to do X, you have to buy this ship, this shield, this weapons, and that's the best thing by far. There will always be something maybe that's slightly better or whatever, but then you're talking about like really min-maxy type stuff, which I think is acceptable, right?
There should be a lot of metas. Different metas for what you want to do.
Yes.
So with that, I think we agree.
Okay, cool. Then as far as the economy goes, and for those of you that don't watch the Astropub and the Captain's Table, they actually discussed this on their podcast last night, and I thought it was a really, really interesting discussion because there was a couple people who were like really into economics. One of them was an economics major or master, had a master's degree in it, and they discussed a bit about it. The economy, I think, will be a lot easier to balance because of the 9 NPCs to 1 player. How they're going to do that exactly, I think we can discuss that, even though we haven't discussed this much or at all previous to this podcast, I don't think. But the economy balance would be that, you know, Laranite isn't the only ore that you should be grabbing. And I think economy balance will come more with multiple systems and things like that, right?
Tony talked a lot about it on SitCon panel, and he did it like he's spoken about
broadly,
it in the past.
But he did, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to hear him speak about it again and again. Just not that I think he's gonna lie and change something, but that his vision about it is what we thought about it even from 2013 when he first started to talk about it. Like, so yes, if a bunch of us do a bunch of things the same, then the economy would compensate for it. And you're right. I think the NPCs and Game Master injects would be specifically how they might deal with it.
Yeah.
Not to prevent something like a large organization from having influence, but to make it more and more challenging for them to imbalance the universe and make it difficult for other people to play. Right? Checks and balances.
Did you play Eve?
No, but
neither did
I've been watching some of my org mates do play it, and I've been watching other streamers play it in that lull between patches because that's what they're playing. So I know that game is brutal, and I think that a lot of people that like Eve saw in Star Citizen something that they like in Eve. And I'm not going to get off on the rails here, but the game won't appeal. It can't appeal to everyone. Obviously, that's the intent.
No.
And there's a lot of people that think the game is going to do something, even though nobody ever said that that's what the game is going to do.
Yeah.
So a certain amount of disappointment, let's say. But I'm going to stop and let you go on with that. Sorry.
Well, the reason I ask you is, did you ever play Eve? Is that was big part of the discussion on the Astropubs podcast was they were doing a lot of comparisons to Eve and how Eve's economy is, because Eve's economy is, I guess, capitalist. It's 100% run by the players, where there's no like kind of like socialism from. It's a classic sandbox. So the players are able to directly affect the economy. A game that I play a lot is Albion Online, and Albion Online was an interesting start where when the game started, when the MMO started, every single item, every single thing in the game is crafted by the players. So there was never, like at the start of the game, it was impossible to even make or gather the highest level gear. You actually had to earn your way up to get it, right? So things and the economy built itself over time. But again, that economy is directly affected by the players. So prices and everything change all the time based on how players affect it.
So I
do go ahead.
I was just going to say that. So that in itself is the Eve way of doing it. To me, is part of the game. Is part of the tactic. Let's say your org was. Excuse me. Let's say your org was capitalizing on aluminum in a sector, and I really wanted you to get out of that sector. Rather than just attack you, I could go mine aluminum somewhere else or something, and then flood the market with it to make it so that you had to go further and basically make a hostile environment without physically attacking you. I could achieve a goal.
Make it not worth it.
Right. I could upset the balance such that you are forced to make a decision. And either you come attack us or you leave, or you continue to struggle with low profit margins, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that the idea of the Iron Fist coming in and just leveling everything out is a complete solution or something that we want.
Do you
right?
think that that's what Star Citizen's solution is?
It sounds like it's going to be. Well, Tony specifically said that there would be a period of time where it would be a natural progression. So let me see if I can remember how he specifically said it.
Okay.
Let's say my org comes in and completely imbalances the market. Let's say we start doing lots of crime.
So
right?
you think you can?
For a period of time. And
Okay.
this is I distinctly remember what Tony said. So what he said is that the universe would react in an appropriate and time conscientious way.
Yep.
So if I came in and started doing lots of crime, the price for bounty and security would go up.
Mhm.
That would naturally bring players and non-players to come in and offset the amount of crime that's being done.
Yep.
And it's kind of the same, like use that analogy for the economy. However, he didn't say it would just happen. He said that it would ramp up. If we needed more Laranite, let's say, an NPC corporation might put a double shift on, but they would have to go hire the people, and it would take time for that to happen, which is good, it's realistic, and it's a simulator. So it's always been an economy simulator, not an economy game, which is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So I do think that there will be large corrections, but I think we're going to have a couple weeks before that happens, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So like if you and this is definitely a topic that you and I are going to agree on a bit. The one reason I brought up Eve and Albion is the way I don't know how Eve started, but the way Albion started is from nothing into something, where Star Citizen starts out with Star Citizen is saying these are the prices for these items. Now, do we like? I don't know if we will be able to. Let's talk about this for a second. Is like ship pricing. Now, are we going to be able to directly affect ship pricing, which is, I think, what people are more concerned about than anything? You bring up the topic that I am kind of more concerned about, which is the actual raw material market, which I think is the one that matters the most.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that part. But I think the people are more concerned about, will we be able to affect ship pricing? And I don't think you can go in and say, I'm selling 1,000 Auroras for this price. Maybe you could, but I don't envision you being able to open a ship shop. Do you?
I think it's easier. So ship trade is, people are going to trade whatever they can.
Yeah, and they're likely going to go below market value to be able to sell the ship, potentially.
Right. So, but I'm going to not necessarily answer your question, but I'm going to bring up a valid point that was also on the economy thing. I think we're basically going to focus on the Tony Z presentation today.
Yeah.
Someone commented $21 million, $22 million for a hammerhead is like craziness. That's impossible.
Yeah.
But then Tony said, he showed a graph, and there was like 30 things on it. It was like propulsion, shields, whatever. So the makeup, the cost of your ship, the value is a better word, of your ship equals what all the components are worth in that sector at that time.
Yep.
So to counter what your question was, can you change the value or price of a ship? Yes. If that particular whatever shield generator is $1 million in that sector because nobody has one, then your ship is going to be $1 million plus whatever that is. So you could technically tank a market by flooding a market with a part, but then maybe that ship won't be the one that people are looking for. I guess what you're saying is, let's say javelins are only made in a sector at a particular store, right?
Which would likely be the case.
Right, because it's made in a factory at a shipyard and stuff like that. So if you want to go buy one, you have to go to that location as a mission, your mini mission, and go look at what it is. And I do think that the price that ship is going to be based on a universe modifier, something that Game Master would do for balance. But I think it will be kind of hands off the reins a little bit with regards to how much that ship costs, because it has to make sense in relation to all the other components, right? So either they make broad stroke changes to the economy, which forces the ship to sit at a right price, or they go in and just hammer the price down and saying, no, it is $300 million. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what the price is. So it's interesting. I, again, not a game developer, right? But I have played D&D, and I understand how the idea of a GM, how the person's goal is to make a fun and believable game. You don't just have like 52 orcs come in at once and wipe out your team, right? That's not fun. And then they won't want to play with you anymore. And it's the same thing. If the GM for this game start to do that too much and are too into it, then maybe people will start to get pissed off and lose interest, right?
Yeah. And I think the one way where we can, and the reason I asked this is I think the real way to affect the economy as a player, where I think the concern is, I think there's a less of a concern is, can the economy be balanced as far as the economy goes? Is can we actually affect it? Is really the question for will it be balanced? So you believe 100%. I believe 100% as well, but I believe you can affect it by kind of what you said earlier, is affecting the raw resources. Because even in the game now, when you're trading, when you buy and sell, you can affect the price. It does take some time, but you can affect the price at a certain place for that raw material. So long term in the game, an organization, even maybe a couple of individuals, could, in certain systems, directly affect the price of ships based on you affecting the raw materials to make that ship or that component or that armor or whatever you decide that you want to affect, right? So if let's say you steal a javelin, Noobifier, or I steal a javelin, and the market is lower than I would like it to be, well, then maybe I'll leave my javelin somewhere safe, and then I'll go and try and affect the price of it in another way, and then say, well, this is the market for a javelin. If you want to buy it off me, this is going to be the price, you know, or sell it to an NPC for a higher price, whatever.
Or you strip it and sell it for parts.
Yeah, that too, because the parts might be worth more. Exactly. That very often works for cars. That's why you'll see a car dealership buy your car from you for more than you probably thought it was worth at the time,
because
right?
Because they need the headlights and the taillights and the door.
Exactly.
And and they're going to sell it for more than they paid you.
Absolutely. So I think we kind of agree on that one, and I think we can probably sort of agree that the economy is likely going to be balanced, and balanced pretty well. In Tony Z, we trust, right? I think he's pretty damn good. I don't think that's an issue.
No.
Where the issue
Every time he opens his mouth, it's good.
It's good. It's great. You know, I think where the real issue is combat, and not just combat. Military ship versus military ship, Hornet versus Gladius. I think it's going to be the flight model versus of mercantile ships versus combat ships. I think it's again still military ships versus military ships. I think there's going to be some issues with balance with that. The fact that racing ships are still considered infiltrators. There's already things that bother me a little bit.
That's already balanced, though. That's those guys are going to end up in the character generation screen, so don't worry about that.
Well, maybe. I think the balance comes more. Maybe this was a topic potentially for another day, because I'll give my opinion, but later. I want to hear what your opinion is on combat balance. Noobifier's in the military, for those of you guys that don't know, and I think he has really good insight on how these kind of things work, and this is where we definitely differ on our opinions on things. But go ahead.
So my background is I spent 15 years as an armored crewman, so tank driver, gunner, loader, commander, and I've gone to Bosnia as such. And of course, being in that job, you study your enemy, you study war, you study tactics, and you try to get good. So that's why I was drawn to Star Citizen only because of the not necessarily only because, but the dogfighting arena commander was very interesting. You know, like that whole idea where you could get good and you were only as good as your skill was appealing. Now, part of that is choosing your weapon, right? So war isn't fair. and
Yeah.
armies have an advantage. And the advantage is based on their tech and how much they pay or how much they train or how much they, you know what I mean? You get that return of contribution.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent just for background. So like take, for example, NATO forces use night vision to bag baddies because the night is an advantage and the baddies don't have the money to get the night vision. It's an advantage and we exploit it. We exploit it because spending money on the tech is better than spending money on lives, right?
Yeah.
And that's better for your American government, Canadian government. The population are happy when the enemy is being forced to do what we want, capitulate, without loss of life, right? So that's why people would rather cut checks than body bags. So, as I said, winning is about making the enemy capitulate. You can achieve that quickly without loss of friendly forces. Everyone's happy. Now, in Star Citizen, doing something dumb should put you at risk. Hopefully we agree with that. If you go into a stupid sector with a stupid ship full of stupid whatever and you get killed, whatever. So not taking an escort through bad space is dumb. Not choosing your loadout to suit the mission is dumb. And running an unoptimized power, flying blind, not doing research, not having backup, all that is dumb. And let's talk about balance then. So when the Vanguard came out, I'm sorry, I'm gonna harp on this one because this is a perfect example, textbook. Vanguard was pitched, $250 ship, fast, long-range death machine. Basically, like a really, really fantastic ship that you would want in your thing. Mm-hmm. And it had almost no negatives other than the cost because it was quick, it was strong, it was well armored. However, it's made by Aegis and it's a weapon, right? It's not like a truck. So you would expect it to do that. Now you have a $70 325A and you see a Vanguard, you shouldn't think that you can tangle with it, right? Because you're in a BMW and that's a tank.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that. So that's the difference between balance and fun. Balance is when you take the Vanguard and you make it shittier so that a 325A could technically, if he was lucky or more often than not, be competitive. Because the idea is you don't want to invalidate the 325A in Arena Commander. Because if it was imbalanced, everyone would be flying Vanguards against Vanguards, and a guy comes in with a starter package and gets destroyed. However, that should happen, right? So what would make more sense is to take the Vanguard and take it out and put it into a different category of Arena Commander. The heavies, right? You have a starter Arena Commander, and we don't have the population right now to do this, but this is to me, rather than screwing with the ships, because you want the balance for the PU, not for Arena Commander. But now what's happening is all the ships are being brought into balance and equal, not fair. Fair is expected. A tank should kill a BMW, right?
Okay.
That's fair and expected, but that's not balanced. So that's my stretch on it. So meta Arena Commander, they found the Vanguard was being used. No one was using any of their ships. Everyone wants everyone to be happy, so they bring the Vanguard down so that it's competitive and then everyone can play. But people melted it because they kept bringing it down and down and down, and the Vanguard was made out of Rice Krispie squares, and it had like shitty power and wouldn't move anything. So it was a sitting duck, and then people stopped flying it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of that?
I sort of actually agree, but I want to take a different take on it. I think where balance comes into play is competitive balance, meta, and I think the metas should start becoming a group meta. And we're getting close to that, where we have some differing combat style ships, where we have EMPs now. We have different styles of weapons than we had before. There's cannons that are very different from laser repeaters, which are very different from ballistics, right? So I think the balance is more... it's hard to talk about ship versus ship right now, which is why I was like, maybe... I just realized, like, in the middle of that talk that I said before, that maybe this would have been a topic for another day, because maybe this is a topic after the flight balance. because
Let's air it out now, though. This is good.
yeah, we can air it out now, and we can always come back to it another time after the flight balance, and maybe I'll bring you on specifically and see what we think, differ or whatever.
How we have progressed.
Yeah, from it.
Right.
But for now, what I'd like to see, and I guess we can talk about ship versus ship, is I think how you're going to be able to balance Star Citizen, and I think they've made it incredibly hard on themselves because of the amount of ships that are in the game and the amount of small intricacies that they're going to have to do to make this one a little better at this, but that one a little better at this. But then there's like a million different components, and most of the ships are of a similar size, can all fit the same types of components on them. So it's going to make it weird. So the real balance is done with weapons and weapon types and gameplay style.
But
so
each ship though has a wide range of power based on what you put in it, right?
Yes,
so
but correct me if I'm wrong.
The default loadout, yeah.
Well, that's where I think we have to avoid is the default loadout is never like we're talking about can we balance Star Citizen long term. So the default loadouts don't matter, right? No.
It's just whatever guns you can throw away.
Exactly. But so as far as like, correct me if I'm wrong, and in the YouTube comments and Noob or anybody in Twitch chat right now, is a Saber and a Hornet both have the same size components. So as far as the internal components go, can I put the same size power plant on a Saber than I do a Hornet? But is the difference the amount of power draw that the ship is grabbing? Like that's where it's tough to determine. Do the components even really matter?
Straight up, the Saber will have stealth and agility over the Hornet will have armor and a little bit less agility.
But agility, sure, but stealth comes from the components, correct?
And the hull.
So So that's okay.
So straight up stock, the Saber is twice as stealthy as a Hornet Ghost.
Yes.
Because it's more modern and all that. And I like the lore bit of that because the Hornet's an old platform that was made to be stealth, and the Saber was made as a stealth fighter.
Yes.
Right? So then one should perform better in stealth.
Okay. So now, where I'm trying to go. You
I
go
was
first.
Just going to say you could lower all of the signatures and power of the Hornet to make it stealthy, similar to the Saber, let's say, but you won't be able to fight because the Saber's designed to fight stealthy, and the Hornet can be made stealthy. Then you take the Saber and you make it stealthy. And you see, so you're right, there's an imbalance issue there. But the Saber can't ever have the amount of armor that you can put on a Hornet, or that the amount of armor that comes on a Hornet by default.
Yeah, so that we're aware of now, because we've not been able to buy armor yet.
Right, but even if you just go look at the statistics, like all the pages, like you open underneath the curtain and you look at what the game files say, that Hornet will take twice as much DPS as a Saber before the wing comes off, before this comes off.
Yeah.
So then it's up to the pilot to stay away from the Hornet or go 2-to-1, which is another thing that we do in war. We do that. Mutually assured destruction is unacceptable. You must kill the enemy before he has a chance to damage a lot of you, right? So then you do economy of effort and all the planning and stuff like that. So there's a lot more to balance. I know we're talking just about ship versus ship.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of know your role.
Or groups of ships versus groups of ships.
Right. But even then, the composition of your fleet will dictate. I mean, everyone's playing RTS games like Command and Conquer, right? They know that this thing kills that thing and that this thing is good at killing that thing. So if you approach balance, RTS is a balance nightmare more than Star Citizen, I'll say, because everyone's going to find a meta for that. And even something like Battlefield 3 comes out with 62 guns, right?
Yeah.
The devs patch to patch are always modifying the balance because the community will find the meta and use it. And then they're like, wait, we shouldn't be able to one-shot kill someone with a sniper rifle from the hip. We need to nerf that because everybody is killing everyone with a sniper rifle from the hip. So I'm not worried per se about it, especially as long as the developers continue to take our feedback. And we have places like SC4, and we got guys like Baird who would literally rip it apart. Malagos does the same thing. Malagos prints out a spreadsheet of all weapons of
every
everything,
patch.
right? And I use that to generate deadly loadout. All I'm doing with that is finding the most effective, the most effective tactic available for a particular thing. And in this case, most of the time I use DPS. DPS is not a very good stadia, because if you can hit reliably, then DPS turns out to be good. But if you're all over the place, then you'd rather have one strong hit,
like these
off of a
cannons.
cannon.
Yeah.
Right. So then I'm going to start to, obviously I need to start to expand into that, right? And this gun at this overcharge does this, so there's a lot more variables.
Yeah.
So your question, I am concerned. I agree that the balance is definitely going to be an issue, because there's so many variables.
There's
right?
so many variables.
Yeah. However,
not
that's
just ships, but like there's so many ship variables just to start.
And then
on top of that, they pile it on and on and on.
Yeah.
And make their lives so difficult. And
But
that's why I think
isn't
this
that
is
good,
an
though?
interesting question. No, because
Okay.
I think it
If
could create a meta where it's never fun. Where as soon as the meta's figured out, everyone's flying the same ship with the same
talk
components
about-
in the same fights, and it's just not fun.
Let's talk about the Kraken, because it's topical. I've prepared a little bit of an observation for that.
I think there's a definitely an imbalance when it comes to concept ships and ship sales, and
Right. So we all agree that it's up to the citizen to decide what ship is right for them. Don't watch the promo video and see all the lasers and shit blowing up everywhere. It's like, fuck, that just crashed into a Vanguard. It's
Can I interrupt you, though?
indestructible. Yes,
I
please.
think it's up to the citizen to decide what ship is right for them right now, because and you only say that because there is no game to play. The meta's gonna decide what ship is right for what citizen in the long term.
But we assume that the devs are going to make the ship like the concept documentation.
But
The
even
intent, right?
but even then, the intent is imbalanced a lot of the time.
Right, and that's fair, and I'll tell you why. The Kraken against an Idris, we don't expect it. We don't expect a Kraken to survive an Idris. I don't, because it's Class C parts, right? They said that's the most you can put into it. It's made by Drake, which is scrap metal put together in such a way that it looks like a ship. The majority of its firepower comes from the ships, not the turrets, even though it does have a lot of turrets. Its strength comes from its ships. So your high crew overload is going to be there. Like your overhead to operate that ship effectively is going to be very, very high. So if you cheap out and put Mustangs all over the deck, then you have a problem. If you get some money and you outfit the thing with like 10 Vanguards as an escort, then obviously it's a strong ship only because of the composite fleet. And you could argue the same thing. You put a Hammerhead and a Polaris next to your Kraken, and it becomes a force multiplier. And that's the thing that balance is also, the meta isn't only about the ship, it's compounded because there is more factors to consider, right?
Yep.
Know your enemy, know what you're going to go up against, know what you're trying to achieve, and then tailor your ship loadout, and then the composition of your fleet to achieve success, right? Overwhelming numbers or overwhelming force. So if you were let's say one-on-one, Idris M, I think, the one with the big honking cannon.
Idris M.
And right. So what would stop? So they're both slow. So we're flying this way at Mach Chicken, just like that stupid fight in the new Jedi movie, right? Where the ship is mysteriously just in a 2-hour car chase. Newtonian, Idris M, now what? Right? So that Kraken has to stop. There's nothing that ship can do to stop that amount of force. So that's the thing. So it is imbalanced. And on top of that, Idris has military armor, military components, blah, 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 blah. I guess what I'm saying is those people that never considered what the ship is intended for just saw new shiny, melt everything, buy new ship, and release endorphins, right?
Yeah.
But that may have been the wrong choice.
Of course. Because people are buying like this
shiny.
People are buying ships with their own money not based off of anything else other than exactly what you said. They're the fact that they want to release endorphins. This has nothing to do with the game when they buy these things half the time. There's people that are collecting, wow, it looks really cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I thought the ship looked amazing. Do I want it? Sure, because it looks cool. Does it make sense for anything I want to do in the game? Not really. But I guess we kind of strayed off the topic slightly. But at the same time, I think ship concept sales and definitely apply to the balance factors as well, because like we said earlier, very often, let's look at the Valkyrie, right? You have the Valkyrie that came out, and you have the hoplite, you have the there's the Retaliator that also has a dropship capabilities.
Redeemer, and your to a point, the Genesis Starliner.
Yeah.
Like not the same, and the Prowler, is the stealth one.
All of those have come out, and or at least have come out in concept sale, and they all differ a little bit, but there's definitely ones that you would use over others. It's just the price that balances them, I think, and
and the price is kind of nobody.
The price, in-game price. Really care. Let's stay away from some actual money values, because it doesn't matter. We're talking about released game.
And then you can also add the crew price, because for example, the hoplite has 7 seats in the back, a turret guy, and a pilot. The pilot has 100% of the weapons, because the turret's kind of 2 size 2s, not really.
Cullis has
useful,
6 seats.
Right. But it's also a Drake ship, and it has no armor. Okay, so it makes a good utility craft, and it can carry cargo, which is good, which is again know your role. But if I saw a bunch of guys attacking like a fleet with a bunch of cutties, I would be like, aluminum, right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing, and obviously I would have chosen a different ship. So the one thing that I want to bring up is, as far as balance is concerned, is invalidating other ships is a logical thing, right?
Yes.
You come out with the Mercury. The Mercury just came out. I think it's like 220. So it's kind of in the same price range as the Connie, Andromeda, whatever. But let's just say this. That thing can carry cargo, and it can carry a lot of cargo. So even if you didn't want to do the data running, you're sitting there saying, Connie, but Connie with the possibility of doing data running. I don't know if I want it. It's a cool ship. It's new. I'm going to melt my Connie and get that. And I think that what's likely going to happen with the Valkyrie, which people shouldn't do, is melt their hoplites and get a Valkyrie straight up. I like the concept. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The fact that it has no cargo is the only reason people aren't melting Connies for it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. And I do think that the devs are going to cave. And if they do, they should put 50 SCU, not 500, right? Make like a little mag plate on the floor just so that the person can bring some ammo for his troops or some medical supplies for his troops, so that that ship is autonomous. Don't make it so that it can ruin everything. You can put an Ursa in it. So just to say, no cargo doesn't actually make sense. I know it's for balance, and they're trying to preserve all the other ships, right? So hopefully, again, we've probably gotten off topic. Sorry.
Maybe, but not really. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'll rein it back in here a little bit. What I want to see with balance in Star Citizen, what I think is important, is getting away from, I think, kind of where we are right now a little bit, and start really focusing on, well, I guess it's getting to where we are right now is at least with the economy ships. The economy ships are all very specialized. I think the military ships should be more specialized than they are now. I think they're kind of not, maybe because the gameplay isn't there yet is part of the issue.
I'll agree.
But
I'll agree with that.
Like the light dogfighters should have their role. The medium dogfighters should have their role. The heavy dogfighters should have their role. In the end, they're all dogfighters. What balances them are their components, their armor, their shields, and their speed, I feel like. But
you just reminded me of my biggest fail from the last year was this whole aircraft carrier based ships have no ram scoop, have no ability.
That shit, I
has
freaked
to
out.
go.
That'll go
That has to
because
go
they'll realize how
away.
stupid it is.
Well, there's only technically 2 ships that can't scoop fuel,
Yeah.
right? And that's the Saber and the Hornet, but and all the Hornet series, right?
Gladius probably.
Then you got like a Bang Stang, a $15 Winnebago mysteriously has the technology that a military craft that costs $1 billion to create
That
can't
makes
do.
no sense.
Fuck. You know, we're allowed to swear here, right?
Yeah, we could swear. They'll have to figure that one out. I the second I saw that come out, I was like, that's the dumbest design I've ever seen.
Lockheed Martin would just go buy a bunch of Bang Stangs, rip the component out if it was difficult to manufacture, and somehow integrate
Figure
it
out a
into
way.
$1 billion fighter.
Yeah.
Because that's an advantage.
Figure out a way to put it on there. Exactly.
So CIG, get rid of the stupid fuel mechanics,
please.
I don't know.
It's
whatever.
Unbalanced. But the what I'd like to see more is specializations. Because I guess we're more on the topic of combat. I'd like to see the specializations more in the combat ships, where certain ships can only carry EMPs. Certain ships can only maybe there's a new type of like docking collar that can break into doors or something like that, right? So boarding ships are boarding ships.
Right. I like it.
Disabling ships are disabling ships. Torpedo ships are torpedo ships, right? They have their major disadvantages and their major advantages. Right now, they all just feel like dogfighters.
I do think, though, I think that not...
is why maybe it feels that way to me, is they just don't... it doesn't feel like there's any difference between them.
So as soon as I can take... If I could take the component off of a Saber Raven and put it like the EMP that's in the missile bay, and if I can put that in a Saber, then that invalidates, in my
which
opinion,
they shouldn't allow that.
They shouldn't allow that.
Yeah.
And they can make it up to be like the Saber Raven has a specialized metal hull, right? Something that you couldn't change. The component of the ship has to be bespoke for this shit to work. Just like the DeLorean is made out of stainless steel, it's a time travel car, but all the other cars aren't. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever. So that's fairly straightforward, and I do think that's fair. But then you get something like the Warlock, right? The Warlock is another EMP ship, but it's not a stealth EMP ship. It's just an Avenger with a big honking thing in the back. And you know what I mean? Like, I think that the idea that know your role and ships have a specific role is very good. I like the fact that
I just don't think they have as much of a role when it comes to combat.
Oh, I see.
I don't think they're as role driven in the combat sphere as the economy ships are. Like, the Prospector is the only ship that can mine right now. There obviously will be other miners going forward. So as far as balance goes, I'll make my last point here is I'd like to see multiple ships from multiple manufacturers that are specialized, and your choice is based off very minimal differences and the style that it looks like.
Like NASCAR.
Yeah, sort of.
Right.
But as far as economy ships goes, as far as light dogfighters, the differences will be minor, but there'll be differences. It'll fit your style of combat gameplay or whatever. Like even so far as racing ships, where some ships pitch better than they yaw. If you're more comfortable pitching when turning than yawing when turning, then you'll go with the M50 over the
350R,
or more likely the Razor, right?
Yeah.
In that case, so little differences like that is what I would like to see.
I'm gonna come back at you though.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about 2 fighters.
Okay.
The Buccaneer and the Saber, right? You've read the documents that come with that ship, right? The Buccaneer is basically Anakin's pod racer, a conglomerate of whatever. It's extremely powerful. It has very large hard points. It has very big engines. It has very good shields, but has almost no hull protection, and it glows like a road flare because it's not a stealth ship, right? So that's its negative. It's like a TIE fighter Whereas, say, Saber, like an F-117, it's all about tech, strategic, and getting hit registration rather than just a shotgun blast.
Yeah.
Now, those ships can be balanced in exactly how I said. A Saber should fight on the outside, whereas a Hornet can go in the middle and just kind of blow everything up because it can take the hits. But it won't pitch around, so it has to, you know what I mean? Its strategy is different.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you took the same tactic in a bunch of different ships and you're trying to balance that by making all the ships the same, I don't want that. I want to have a Hornet and a Saber.
I don't want them to be. Well, no, I think there should be a Hornet and a Saber and a.
Yeah.
But they have their. I consider those differences slight.
Okay. Well, I'm going to sound stupid, but you're going to need to spend more time in Arena Commander.
Well, no, no, I know they're not slight differences, but I think those can be balanced and created, or can be made slight. Where do you want the major differences between them like that?
I want to have to choose between a scalpel and a saw. Yes.
Okay. And there might be situations there would be situations that would make more sense to bring the scalpel versus the saw.
I want a composite fleet. I want to have a group of my friends in my org some like Hornet, and they want to fight like Hornet, and they get good as a Hornet jockey. And then I want to have, let's say, 2 guys that like Vanguard and 4 guys that can do Saber. And I want all of us to know that the Sabers go after the Vanguard. The Vanguard goes in, takes the hit. The Hornet comes in from the side and pins the enemy and just punishes them, while the Saber's making everyone confused. Yeah. That is exactly how war works, and that's the level of that's the balance that I want. The imbalance.
Yeah.
Everything is fair, but not equal.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think they have to take I'm going to make my last point. I'm just going to go. Do I think they can balance this game? I don't know if there will ever be really solid competitive balance. I think there will always be a fairly broken meta, and I think it will make things difficult for them. I think they want to get into the esports realm, and I think they're biting themselves in the foot when it comes to that, in terms of, at the very least, the spaceship combat esports part.
Esports is easy to do, okay? As I said at the beginning, you have your Vanguards, you have your heavies. So Vanguard and what was the other one? The crazy one with all the guns on the top.
The Hurricane, yeah.
Hurricane versus Hornet is not a fair fight. So make categories, right? Groups of ships that are similar. That's the only way to do esport. Or make it Saber versus Saber, Saber versus Hornet. You know, like, you can't have it all.
But
right?
but then we're also talking about the PU, where esports balance might tend to find its way into the PU, or the PU balance might affect the esports balance of the game.
Sense.
Well, it's what happens in MMOs. Sure. At least MMOs that I've played in, is the like WoW, Albion, Ultima Online, these things where there's PvP little mini portions of the game. The way the devs balance for that sometimes affects the actual economy of the game, or if the way they balance the economy affects the PvP of the game. I just, again, I'll make my last point. I don't think it can be balanced. Personally, I think it's way too complicated, and there's always going to be a fairly unbalanced meta. I think the economy will. And then you could just make your last point, and then we'll say goodbye.
My final point is, war isn't fair. And if you're in a war ship and you're going to choose a tank over a truck over something else, they're all good at what they're supposed to do, and they all have a reason for you to use them. Like, I might take a Humvee instead of a tank if I wanted to be more quiet. Or I might take a car instead of a Humvee if I didn't want people to notice I was there. I need that diversity in this game. Is that balance? No, it's not. They're not equal balance. However, fair and expected based on the role and what you expect that vehicle to do, or worse still, what you were pitched when you bought it, right? Like Vanguard.
Yeah.
So I don't,
which is a
I
whole
don't
nother
care,
thing.
which is a whole other thing. So I personally don't give a shit about esports. This is okay. That's another topic. If esports starts breaking the core game that we're all paying for, then it's not worth it,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
It's
I agree.
trendy or whatever. I don't care. PvP Arena Commander is a fun simulator and it's a good place to learn, and it should be more or less equal to what you would expect in PU, because you're right, balance should balance. But breaking a ship so that it's equal in a sphere isn't the way to do it.
Yeah.
Changing what ship you can bring into a particular environment is, though, like a Connie battles, but not Connie versus Hornet, for example.
No, but Connie versus similar Connie from another ship company.
Right. Or a composite group that equal a certain amount of points. So like a Hornet is 10 points, Connie's worth 50 points. So you could choose to bring 5 Connies in, and I could choose to bring in 25 Hornets.
But like you said, war's not fair. So when you come across Test Squadron in the PU, who's got a lot of members, there has to be a way where
go get friends.
Yeah, well, no, it's
leave.
not. It shouldn't always be go get friends. It should be the ability to strategize. So the balance, balance comes into play where, okay, well, we're gonna want to be a little more stealthy and engage a certain way, or like somebody's just said in chat, disengage. Are we gonna be able to disengage?
No.
There's
Just
all sorts of balance that comes into play with that too.
So what would you do in real life? If I was in an armored vehicle overseas and my main armament is facing forward and I came upon another tank and I just wanted to de-escalate, I might turn the gun away from aim, and then I would wave at them and try to reach an agreement, like we need to pass, okay?
Yeah.
So that's another thing. You don't have to maintain posture. Sometimes if you come aboard Test Squadron, maybe they don't care about combat at all. Maybe it's not economically useful to them. You phone them and say, hey, I'm just passing through. And they're like, yeah, we didn't even know you were there, right? Like, so this is another entire facet, I suppose, of the PvP that you won't, or PvP in PU that you won't get in Arena Commander.
Yeah.
Because in Arena Commander, you see a vehicle and you kill it because that's what
The
you're
whole
there
point.
for.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I say the balance is you shouldn't balance the sphere to the PU. You should go the other way.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe. Well, until current Arena Commander, I don't think you can balance for the PU because eventually.
Oh, they're trying.
They're trying, but I don't think it makes sense because you have interdiction and things like that will come into play at some point. But yeah, I don't know. So I think we kind of were in agreement, but not in agreement. It's an interesting topic where I think it's another topic that we've brought up that I think everybody's going to have an opinion on, and I think it's a good one to talk about because of that, and that's why I wanted to do it now. I think maybe 6 months to a year from now, I think we can come back to this topic and see how things have progressed, how things have changed, and so on.
For sure.
Yeah. So before we head out, for those of you guys that popped in a little bit late, this is Answer the Call. This was Answer the Call, where we pick a single topic each week and discuss it. Every other week, we have a content creator on, like Noobifier, and the off weeks, I guess, we have the viewers, you guys, call in live on Discord. So this week is Content Creator Week. Last week was Call-In Week, and yeah, I'm really, really enjoying this. Again, lots of positivity towards this podcast, and I'm really enjoying doing it. But before we head out, Noobifier, thank you for stopping by. Is there anything you got going on in the right now? You got any cool videos coming out? Any giveaways? Anything that's going on the channel?
Right.
So you want to promote?
There's definitely a giveaway that's ending tonight, and it's a collaboration for My Radar. You should want to support My Radar anyways because they're making a cool thing. The giveaway is for $2,500 worth of ships. It's 20 prizes. You won't be able to have any difficulty finding it on my channel. Just look for the My Radar stuff.
Yeah, and I'll link it.
Okay, thank you. And then so Monster Tech. I'm trying to expand, not necessarily away from Star Citizen, but add over Star Citizen. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I'm not happy with Star Citizen. It's just I want more. I want a bigger challenge. That's the whole reason I make YouTube videos in the beginning, is just to learn how to make videos better, learn about audio and all that stuff. So this is just natural progression. And if you don't like a particular topic that I make, you don't have to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, you certainly don't have to get in there and tell me that I should stick to Star Citizen and you don't know what I'm doing, because that's just rude.
Yeah.
So thanks for your support, guys. I do appreciate it.
Oh, I love YouTube comments. Sometimes they're the best. And yeah, for those of you guys that don't know me, I am Torque17. I stream mostly on twitch.tv/Torque17. And we do this YouTube video now weekly, hopefully, so long as the topics keep coming. And if you guys have any topics that you would like to see us discuss, or any guests that you would like to see come on in the future, leave a comment below there, or let me know in the Twitch chat. There's also a Discord channel, which is linked below as well, that you guys can actually suggest topics there. There's a whole channel where you can suggest it. So that's kind of where we came to this topic from. Was I kind of combined two suggestions into this one thing. So yeah, I guess this is the end of this podcast. So Noob, again, thanks for coming on. And those of you guys on YouTube, if you like this video, please like it. If you want to watch more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button. And again, comment below. What are your thoughts about Star Citizen balance? Is it possible? Is it not? Can it be balanced in the future? And yeah, and what topics do you want to hear in the future? All right. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.